Have you ever stopped to think about how a meeting happening thousands of miles away could actually hit your wallet? Well, today we're going to connect those dots. We're talking high-stakes diplomacy, the global oil market, and, yeah, the price you pay right at the pump. Let's dive in.
And really, that's the big question, isn't it? Right now, in Vienna, you've got diplomats from the US and Iran at the table. And honestly, the outcome has traders, politicians, and frankly, all of us on the very edge of our seats.
Sure, on the surface, this is all about the price of oil. But as we're about to see, the ripples from these talks spread way wider. We're talking about global security, economic stability, even the future of our planet.
All right, so let's kick things off with the most direct connection, your money. How exactly do these talks in a city far away end up dictating the cost of filling up your car?
Okay, so right now, Brent crude, that's kind of the global gold standard for oil, is sitting at around $85 a barrel. But look, that's not just a random number. It's a price tag that reflects a market that is super tense and really uncertain about what's coming next. And all that tension, that's what we call geopolitical sentiment. The market isn't reacting to something that's already happened, but to the possibility of what could happen. Think of it like a tightrope walker. Every bit of news out of Vienna, good or bad, is like a gust of wind that could throw everything off balance. Investors are just hedging their bets, and that's why prices are stuck in this holding pattern.
So to really get why the market is so on edge, you have to understand the history here. This is not some new disagreement. This is the latest move in a long, complicated diplomatic chess game that's been playing out for years.
So here's the quick and dirty version. Back in 2015, there was this landmark nuclear deal, the JCPOA. It basically eased sanctions on Iran, and in return, Iran agreed to limit its nuclear program. But then, in 2018, the US walked away, slapped those sanctions right back on, and the whole thing was put on ice. And that brings us right here to today with these make-or-break talks to see if this deal can possibly be saved.
And this is the part where everything gets stuck. It's a classic who goes first problem. The US is saying, you prove you're playing by the nuclear rules first, and Iran is saying, nope, you lift these crippling economic sanctions first. Neither side wants to be the first to give in, and that's why we're in this deadlock.
And the stakes here are just enormous. That number, 150 billion, is the number of barrels of proven oil reserves that Iran is sitting on top of. It's one of the biggest stockpiles in the entire world, and for years, most of it has been locked out of the global market because of sanctions.
Now get this. If a deal is reached, analysts figure Iran could start pumping an extra 1.5 million barrels of oil into the market per day. That is a massive wave of new supply that could totally change the game for energy prices.
So where does that leave us? Well, it looks like there are basically three very different paths forward from here. And each one has a totally different impact on the world economy and, yep, on you.
Okay, let's break this down. Scenario 1, they actually make a deal. That 1.5 million extra barrels a day hits the market, and prices could drop down into the $70 to $75 range. For you, that means cheaper gas and lower prices for pretty much everything. Now, Scenario 2, the talks completely collapse. Tensions could boil over, maybe even risking a conflict in a key oil shipping region. If that happens, prices could shoot past $100 a barrel, and you'd feel that everywhere. Heating bills, groceries, you name it. And then there's the third option, which might be the most likely. We just stay in this limbo. Prices will just keep bouncing around in that $80 to $90 range, which means more uncertainty for everyone.
You know, it's easy to get lost in all these numbers and market forecasts. But this quote, it's just a powerful reminder that behind all the geopolitics, there are real people. For millions of Iranians, what happens in Vienna isn't about their stock portfolio. It's about whether they can afford bread and medicine. So let's zoom out for a minute, because the shock waves from these talks go so much farther than just the price of crude oil.
Yeah, this really shows the bigger picture. A successful deal could bring down the temperature in a really volatile part of the world. A failure, on the other hand, could seriously raise the risk of a military conflict. Success could also restore some faith in international agreements, while failure could weaken them across the board. Heck, it even affects the climate debate. Super high oil prices might push us faster towards green energy, or they could make countries double down on fossil fuels just to keep the lights on. It's all connected.
And so, that brings us right back to this moment, right back to that meeting room in Vienna, where decisions being made right now are going to echo for years and years to come.
I think this quote puts everything into a really powerful long-term perspective. You know, while we're all focused on this immediate crisis, the ultimate goal for so many people is to get to a future where our world isn't being held hostage by oil politics or the threat of nuclear weapons.
So that's the question we're all left with. A deal could bring some much-needed relief. A failure could spark chaos. And just staying put leaves us all guessing. The whole world is watching Vienna, because what happens there, in one way or another, happens to all of us.